I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Well, another Duluth City councilor has entered the race to become the city's next mayor. The campaign to replace outgoing Mayor Don Ness is attracting plenty of attention.
The John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon is a month away, but organizers are charting a course for a more secure future for the race.
And what better way to give for the holidays than the gift of education? The Minnesota College Savings Plan makes it easy.
These stories and more straight ahead on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Denny, it's our last new show of 2014 and the year has really gone by pretty quickly.
It certainly has, but 2015 is going to prove pretty exciting on the program too. We have a lot of great guests.
I'm sure, and we have a lot of good things to talk about tonight too, so let's get started.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Good evening again. Duluth Mayor Don Ness has a full year left in his second term, but candidates are already lining up to challenge for the city's top elected position. Now this week, a second Duluth City councilor threw her hat into the race for mayor. With the official filing period still 7 months away, it looks like a crowded field could be vying for the mayor's post. Joining us now is Emily Larson, the current City Council president, who entered the mayor's race this week. And Councilor Larson, it sounds like it's pretty important to get into the race early.
I think so, yes. We announced this week after taking the time that me and my family needed to really discern the issues moving forward and what I thought I could bring for vision. And once you know, it is important to get out there and start running.
Have you been thinking about it for a while?
You know, we've spent the last few months really thinking about it because I was really surprised by the number of people who asked me to consider it. Sure. And the various roles those people have in the community told me that there was something I could bring. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, there were reports earlier in the week that Lieutenant Governor Yvonne Pretner-Solon was going to be running. Mm-hmm. Did that kind of scuttlebutt in the media move up your decision at all?
You know, we had this date in mind for weeks, actually. And what's funny is that it kind of became the worst kept secret in announcements by the time we actually announced on December 17th. So actually we had that formalized. So on the 17th we were ready to go. We had our website, Facebook, Twitter, 500 letters went out. We had the media event, my husband and I, and it felt great.
And Emily, that media,
go ahead.
The media event was by the library.
Yeah.
And you chose that for a reason. Talk about that.
I chose it for several reasons. When I ran for city council, I announced at the library because I'm really passionate about the effect the library has on, you know, lifelong education and literacy for children. And in my years of service to the library and parks, we've, you know, opened up more hours for the library. So there was a piece about that being the root of who I am. Certainly now we're talking about how to reframe the needs of that building, and the community has embraced that. But also on that very intersection, it was so fun to talk about this, you know, this project, Maurice's corporate tower going up. When I announced for city council, that was an empty building, and now there's a $70 million project going up that the city was a key partner in. It's right along Superior Street, which is going to be redone. Within blocks are several multi-million-dollar projects. So it was a very intentional choice to be there.
Getting back to the library, there's been chatter in the media that should we either tear down the present library, which is about 35 years old, or save the library building, rebuild it somehow. What would you favor?
Well, first of all, I'm really disappointed that we have to have the conversation. It's not that old of a library. And so I think in my personal, if it were me, and it's not because it's a community conversation, that's really important. The library absolutely has to be downtown. It can be there. It could be in potentially a different location. Offering better design, better service at a smaller library downtown could really be a great possibility if we also commit to building out the branches a little bit more and offering more service there as well.
There's so many e-books now being put out. Is a library dead in the water 35, 40 years from now?
No, and here's why. Libraries actually level the playing field for communities. Everybody can go to the library. It's one of the very few public spaces in any city. Parks, libraries, this is where everyone goes. And in Duluth, everybody does go there. So we have thousands of people who have limited access to technology. They're using the computers. This is where children are getting their books. This is where people engage in lifelong learning. It's a core. It's not an add-on. It's a core service of what we do.
Now, you've been engaged in city government for a couple of years now. What do you see as the city's biggest challenges going into the next 4 to 5 years?
Well, in my campaign for mayor, if you go to my website, you know, we've got all these kind of talking points, but I really lay out 3 different things. The first is economic development, and we have this wonderful momentum that's underway in partnership with so many people. So definitely moving that forward, because we are actually now at a place that we are growing our tax base, and that is exactly where we need to stay. We have quality of life issues that include, you know, parks and libraries and those kinds of things that we've just talked about. In my years with the city, we have expanded trails, and they are beautiful, and people are out there. We are not setting aside the money we need to maintain them, for instance. So that will be something that I do. I'm committed to opening all of our libraries on the weekends. So there's a quality of life piece that I think is important for the city to embrace. We have, you know, certainly street reconstruction, which I know has been on everyone's mind, and the need to really identify, which takes more time than just 1 or 2 years, ongoing stable funding to take care of our roads and streets.
So has Mayor Ness taken the city in the right direction? Would you follow much of what he's done?
There are things I would absolutely follow, because there is a lot of momentum that I think people feel really, really good about. I also, however, have a whole set of my own ideas and visions that I think we are ready to embrace. And some of that includes working more with each of our neighborhoods across the city. I think neighborhoods and residents want to be a part of the vision and where we are going. And as we're building on that momentum and as we're moving into that next chapter of Duluth, I want to make sure we all get there together.
Now, you mentioned the street repairs and the need to find the permanent funding. Of course, it used to be funded through the casino profits, and the debate over that has kind of bruised the relationship between the city and the band.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to try to rebuild that connection? And if so, what would you do to do it?
Well, that's one of the things I'm actually most excited about. And one of the qualities that I think I bring that to strength is the ability to work really well with people and a variety of people. So that relationship with the band is paramount to our success as a city. Whether it's, you know, the casino litigation aside, this is a neighboring government, and we have a lot of interests in common, and we have a lot of people in common, and there's absolutely the potential for that to get better. And some of it is the old-fashioned relationship building that you have to do to have a better, you know, a better way to start those conversations, because it's not always going to be easy.
City Council President Emily Larson, now candidate for mayor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Jerry and Patty Wetterling could never have guessed it would come this far. This morning at a Golden Valley production studio, they put on makeup for a televised public service appeal.
Okay, let's try a couple of these.
On October 22nd, our son, Jacob Wetterling, was abducted.
For every day of the past 2 months, the Wetterlings have done anything and everything to get their son back. And who would have thought that the whole state would help out, that the Minnesota Vikings would make a statement to the National Football League and the nation. The Timberwolves would honor the Wetterlings. The fans, as if bearing some of the pain, gave them a standing ovation. A radiothon raised more than $100,000 for missing children nationwide. And a tree of light at the Capitol stood as a tree of hope, with a star for Jacob at the top.
At first, the wait was minute by minute, then day to day. Now it's more like week to week. And it's not getting any easier.
This afternoon in St. Cloud, the wait continued.
I feel like we need to stay strong so Jacob has a family to come home to. I mean, we could fall apart and then find Jacob, and what has he got? That's not fair to him.
One thing has certainly not changed in these past 2 months. The family that has done everything keeps right on doing it.
And Jacob, if you hear us, we love you. We will not stop looking for you.
For CBS News, I'm Darrell Savage.
The John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon has been thrilling spectators and challenging mushers and their dog teams since 1980. Named for the legendary Anishinaabe man who delivered mail by dog sled on the North Shore, it is the longest such race in the lower 48 states. In recent years, the race has had a few ups and downs, but organizers say they are putting a new plan in place and the future is bright. Joining us with more on the 2015 race is Jason Rice, president of the Beargrease Board of Directors. And Jason, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, we mentioned in the introduction that the Beargrease has struggled a bit in recent years. In fact, last year it was almost canceled.
No, it was canceled.
Well, canceled and then brought back to life.
It was only by the grace of God and a bunch of really dedicated volunteers. It literally was being canceled at that meeting.
What are the big issues?
I think the biggest issue is that you've had a race that was really in its glory days in the 80s and early 90s, and you had a couple of real, what you would call angel type sponsors who gave real big checks and made life easy. The race formula is quite simple. Raise money, bring volunteers, the racers will come and put on an event.
So
repeat
what's
the
being
process.
done to restructure then?
So what we're doing now, we've obviously migrated away from the business model of having 1, 2, 3 large sponsors paying the majority of the way. What we're doing now is really looking at a lot of partnerships with communities all around our area and beyond, but much more smaller in terms of size financially. So if any given one of them happens to depart, you know, and really there's a shelf life with sponsorships. It's typically, you know, 4 to 7 years is very typical. We've had a number of our sponsors much longer, but we're looking at having a more realistic business model where we're far more grassroots and relying on large angels less and relying on the strength of these small $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 up to $10,000 sponsors a lot more strongly.
And I understand that UMD has been helping you out with a new business plan?
Well, as a matter of fact, we're going to go down that road with a business plan at another juncture. We are expanding our relationship with local universities, and one such way that we're doing that right now with UMD is they built a whole new database system for us, and this was a competition in a senior level class, and they have basically designed a way for us to archive our information. The Beargrease office down there in the Skywalk has got all kinds of file cabinets full of stacks of paper, and it's been hard to pass on knowledge from one board of directors and one set of volunteers to another. With this new cloud-based system and having everything that we do, everything from sponsors to the contacts for the media to the musher data, everything we need to know to put on this race we're going to have stored in a way that no matter who's running the race each year, no matter what the board looks like, the information carries on.
From year to year, it seems like we never really know if we're going to have enough winter for the Beargrease. So
that
is a real problem, isn't it, for the Beargrease?
You know, it can be. It really can be for anybody who's dependent on having to have an absolute type of weather. With grandmas, you can run in the rain. It's not fun, but you can. North Shore Inline, it would be perhaps dangerous, but they can run it in the rain. Something like the Birkebeiner or the Beargrease, we absolutely have to have enough snow, and particularly with the Beargrease, you need to have at least about a foot so that you can safely sink a hook into the snowpack to stop a dog team. And so if it's not there, that's one thing all the sponsors and volunteers in the world can't help us with.
Talk about the selling points for the Beargrease, because something about that race got you involved.
It did. Well, we'll skip the stories of a young cub reporter being assigned to cover a 20 below finish line with Jamie Nelson winning her 4th sled dog marathon title. That's where it all began. I was hooked instantly. But I think the allure of this race, number one, you're looking at it right on the screen, the dogs. So many people in our area have a love of dogs, but the John Beargrease Sled Dog Marathon is really a living demonstration of the working relationship that dogs have carried out with humans for centuries. And we honor that. And then we also happen to honor the guy who absolutely made life critically able to happen here with early settlement. He was the news source. He was the word from relatives from afar. So by carrying the letters and the mail up and down the shore using his team of dogs and his team of horses, by the way, he really is something that we celebrate as a part of our heritage in the area.
Is sled dog racing not as popular as it once was? Are the crowds getting thinner?
That's a great point to bring up, because it's not that the crowds or the fans have thinned out. I think that the challenges, especially over the past number of years here, 4 or 5 years, with a slipping economy, people have had to choose. Most mushers are not independently wealthy. They do work. And that means having to choose, perhaps if there's a layoff in the family, it means maybe having to work more, train dogs less. If you want to be successful running dogs, it's like a marathoner. You need to put miles on your dog sled team in order to be ready to run a 400-mile marathon.
Mm-hmm. So how do you attract the good mushers? Because that's kind of an issue too. You know, there's a number of competing races, and you don't always have the biggest prize purse. So
Right.
So how do you draw them in?
Well, let's go with your last point first. We're working towards getting back to the glory days where this does have one of the biggest purses. This year we're approaching $50,000 as a total prize purse.
Right, right.
And it's been a few years since it's been at that level. If you look back, though, 15, 20 years ago, it was actually approaching the $80,000 range. What you need to do is have enough money that it's worth it for somebody to drive from a great distance, whether it's Alaska or Canada or Vermont, New Hampshire, state of Washington. You need to have it be financially viable to drive a long distance and still have a chance at a paycheck. And we're getting much closer to that, and with, I think, the direction that we're headed now, and with a much more energized group of sponsors and a reinvigorated board, I think we are really heading in the direction. Watch over the next few years. The new efforts that are going on now, we're not focusing so much on how are we going to get this year done, you know, putting blinders on, let's just get this year done. That's the way it's been for a long time. By the seat of your pants, let's get across the finish line this year. We are really looking now and starting to vision far forward. I'm already looking, and the rest of the board is already looking at 16, 2016, 2017, and 18. What will it look like then? Who will be involved? What does the race course look like? And in my mind, the way we really grow this is engaging the North Shore. We're calling it Project G, which in mushing terms is a right-hand turn. As we head north, we want to be making, in the future, we envision a lot more right-hand turns off of that North Shore State Trail, heading right back into these towns, and we just need to find the right pathway in and the right relationships to strike up to make it all happen. But it could be a real festive atmosphere, not just in Duluth and not just in the town of Finland. Yeah. We can get back to the towns that it used to visit in the glory days.
And the race starts when?
As long as there's enough snow, January 25th, right. Sunday, January 25th at Ordine East.
All right. Well, Jason, thanks so much for coming in, and thanks for the enthusiasm and passion you're putting into it.
Well, thanks,
Jason. If you have children or grandchildren in your life, the holidays can be a time of great joy and giving. Watching the kids unwrap the latest electronic gadget, game, or trendy clothing has great short-term value. But what if you could give a gift that helps ensure a child's future education? Joining us now is Robert Stern from the Minnesota College Savings Plan to tell us about the gift of giving for an education. Robert, welcome very much back to our studios. And you know,
Thanks for having me.
College costs are way up, let's face it. So giving the old savings bond just doesn't seem to work anymore.
No, it's interesting. You know, you can't even get an old paper savings bond. Somebody from in the government decided years ago, a number of years ago, to not issue them that way. And that's actually been a good thing for our program. We found a lot more older folks, grandparents and older parents are looking to the state's 529 plan as an alternative. So that's good news for us.
Mm-hmm. So if grandparents or aunts or uncles want to actually give a gift to a 529 plan, how do they go about doing it?
Well, we've made it as easy as we possibly can, I think. If they already know the account number of the person, they can go right on our website, which is mnsaves.org. We have a button that literally says give a gift, and with a few clicks you can move money right into their account, and that's become an ever more popular feature for us.
So how does that plan work, Robert?
Well, it's the state's 529 plan. So the way it works is that all of the money that you put in at the end of the line, when you take it out, as long as you use it for college costs, tuition, room and board, that type of thing, you get to take it out tax-free. So over the years, that can be enormously beneficial, all the gains that you make. And so we like to say time is on your side. So you want to start the plan as early as you can and then give it time to grow.
Is that money used for tuition only, or can it be used for other costs that are often incurred during
Great
college?
question. Actually, anything really related to the college experience. So it can be room and board, it can be tuition. The list of qualified expenses is quite long. So
what happens if I, as a parent or as a grandparent, dutifully contribute to one of these plans for years and years and try to help out my child or grandchild, and then they decide not to go to college?
Well, that's a great question. We get that a lot. You have several choices. The first thing we recommend is to switch the beneficiary. So that's one of the real flexibilities of this plan. So you would want to switch it to another child. It can be any blood relative. So that's one thing. If you can even switch it to yourself or to a spouse. If none of that works, though, and you really want to get the money out, it's very much like a retirement account that you liquidate early. You can take the money out, but there is a 10% penalty for doing it.
Are there contribution limits, both minimums and maximums?
Yeah, there is a minimum. It's $25. So and the maximum is way up there. It's $350,000. Okay. So that's another great question, though. That's one of the reasons this plan is so popular, because anywhere in between, you know. So we have people that take so much out of their paycheck every time. We have other people who put in bonuses or Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. So really it's up to you, and there are no maintenance fees or inactivity fees or anything like that, and that's very nice too.
So a giver could give just through automatic withdrawal every month?
Absolutely, yes. Through that's a very popular way to do it. You can even have it withdrawn from your paycheck too. So it's again, the hallmark's flexibility. The program is sponsored by the Minnesota Office of Higher Education, and their mission really is to facilitate education among all Minnesotans. And so it's a direct sold plan. There are no commissions or fees involved. And so again, the idea is to figure out what works for you.
So who manages the plan and how secure is it?
Okay, great. So I work for a company called TIA CREF, and we manage the plan. We have since its existence in 2001. Our company is Fortune 100. We were started by Andrew Carnegie, and this is an area we're very involved in. We manage 11 plans around the country, including our neighbor Wisconsin, the EdVest plan. We manage that as well. So.
And how well generally are families doing as you look around the state in terms of saving for college? Because the price is so high.
It is. Denny made the great point at the beginning. The costs just keep escalating. I think it's hard to think of anything that has gone up as much as going to college. And families are doing well. The one problem it really is in the area of debt, though. The average undergraduate who graduates from the University of Minnesota has $30,000 in debt. That's the average. So there are people with much more than that. I like to say that with that generation, what you have is people that have a mortgage but no house, and so that's where we feel we can really help. If for every dollar they can put into a plan like this, that's $1 less that they have to borrow.
And do they have to use those dollars in a an institution that's in Minnesota?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's one of the common misconceptions. It's any accredited school. So anywhere in the U.S., anywhere even overseas. That sometimes stops people. They think, well, my child might not go to the to UMD or University of Minnesota. Doesn't matter. It can be anywhere.
All right. Robert Stern, supervisor of the Minnesota College Savings Plan. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
It's time now for the week's top business stories from our friends at Business North. Elite Clean Energy has finalized the acquisition of a wind generation facility in Storm Lake, Iowa. It will add another 108 megawatts to the utility's renewable energy portfolio and contribute to corporate earnings by next year. $15 million was paid to NRG Energy to acquire Storm Lake 1, which is adjacent to Storm Lake 2 and was purchased by Elite earlier this year. Now together, the facilities can generate nearly 200 megawatts of electricity and have power sales agreements in effect for the next 5 years.
An Ashland couple has been arrested after an indictment was issued earlier this month by a federal grand jury. Anna Novak and John Morrison, owners of the J.C. Moon store in Ashland, are facing 35 criminal charges related to sales of controlled substances, commonly known as synthetic marijuana. They are charged with distributing controlled substances, skimming money from sales, and filing false tax returns. The indictment alleges the store owners sold products labeled as herbal incense, knowing that people would smoke it. Morrison and Novak are facing up to 20 years in prison on each count.
PolyMet has spent $81.7 million on environmental review and permitting for its proposed copper-nickel mine near Hoyt Lakes. That number was revealed in the company's quarterly report. With no revenue stream, PolyMet's loss so far this year has been $5 million, down slightly from $5.2 million last year at this time. President John Cherry says PolyMet is working to complete permit applications and to obtain financing to ensure construction is completed and operations are ready to launch. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment about our show, now is the time to call. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also go to the WDSE website for updates on your favorite shows, public television related events, and news about the station. And Denny, I hate to speak for you, but I'm sure you would join me in wishing all of our viewers a happy holiday season.
Oh, absolutely. It should be a great week coming up. We'll be gone for a couple of weeks, you and I, here on the program. But for all of you, we certainly wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
All right, for Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next year.